Well, guys, it used to be that you had to get a traditional publisher to publish your book. There was really no other option besides going with a traditional publisher. You would solicit that company, he would send a copy of your manuscript. You would hopefully get something back. They would reject it or they would accept it. Most of the time they rejected it. It was very difficult to get a book published in years past. And even then, if you did, it didn't pay a whole lot because the publishing company would take most of the profit. You would get, a small royalty. You might get 50 cents, $1 a book that was sold, which didn't add up to a whole lot because usually the publishing companies didn't do a whole lot as far as trying to push and promote your book. You had to do that your own self to sell the book to the publishing company. So you was actually doing the writing, the research, the writing, the book, getting everything formatted and everything, and sending that in. And they would have editors to go through it to make sure everything was spelled correctly and all the grammar and things was correct. And then they would publish that book. And then you would have a published book. You'd be a published author, but no sales. You had to be the one to go out and promote your book, do book signings, go on television shows and talk shows, promote your book. You was the one doing all the selling while the company was getting all the money. Thankfully, it's not that way anymore. Thankfully, Amazon has opened up, huge opportunities for writers. You can write your book and you can post it, upload it, and sell it through Amazon, and they will do all the printing. It's called print on demand. You get everything set up, you write your book, you get it set up on Amazon, and then when someone orders your book through Amazon, Amazon will send that order to the printers. They have their own print shop and everything, and then it will be printed out by Amazon. It will be packaged up and shipped out to the consumer by Amazon. All of your returns, if you have any, hopefully you don't, but everyone has some, it's all handled through Amazon. All the payments are handled through Amazon, and you can set your price. So you have a lot more control self-publishing through Amazon. More control over your product. You hold the copyright. You have control of the price, pretty much everything. It's a lot better, in my opinion, than going to a traditional publisher. More control, more money, everything is actually a plus through Amazon versus a traditional publisher. For example, my book, the Preparedness Guide to Surviving and Really Know It, Gear, Skills, and Related Know-How. This book is still earning me money, and you can see by the screenshot over here, this one book right here has earned over $46,000 since I published it on Amazon in royalties. So that is pretty darn good in my opinion, and it's still making money. And that's why this is such a great opportunity, for people to make money through self-publishing. Most likely, about right now, you're thinking about whether you should choose to write a fiction novel or nonfiction. And I can say right now, 100%, you should go with nonfiction. It's much easier to write. You need less talent to write nonfiction. You still need talent, but you need a lot less talent. And the sales potential is far greater than writing, a fiction novel. Fiction can sell some, especially if you already have a name for yourself as a published novelist. However, why choose the difficult path? It's not going to be easy, and more than likely it will fail. So you want to write non-fiction. You want to write books that will help someone, that will tell someone how to do something, and preferably a lot of people, because the more people who are interested in the topic, the more people your topic that your book is about would help, the better potential sales that you'll have. For example, this book right here, The Effortless Sleep. I'm not sure if this is published by a traditional publisher or published by, anyway, I don't know if this is self-published or traditional publisher, but this is the type of book I'm talking about right here. This book, everyone has to sleep. Just about everyone has trouble sleeping. So this book has a huge potential audience. And I'm sure the author has made a lot of money, from this book. Huge potential audience. And something like this is absolutely perfect when it comes to self-publishing. If you can write something like this that has this huge of an audience, this huge potential to sell this many copies, it's You can make a lot of money doing that. I mean, you can make the book I wrote here on prepping has a much, much smaller audience than this book does. And this book here, like I said, has earned $46,000 so far. This book here, I'm sure, has earned much, much more than this book because the potential audience for this is far greater. However, you have to try to keep it within your niche, obviously. But this is the kind of thing I'm talking about right here. Here's another book that was published. The copyright on this book is 1978 or 1979. Possum Living by Dolly Freed. And this is a classic. This book has been making money for someone for decades. It's still selling. This book was written in the 1970s, and people are still buying copies of this book. This book is still available on Amazon. This book is still making money. I'm not sure if Dolly Freed is still alive or not, but if she is, she's still making money from the royalties off of this book if she didn't sell her copyright or something like that. This is an example of what I'm talking about. Self-publishing to earn a passive income. You write your book and it sells for years or even decades. That's the beauty of this. Once you get your book written, it's going to be available. You can make sales for years to come, decades to come. And this is a prime example. Copyright 1978 or 1979. I can't remember here, guys. Take a look here right fast. This was published by a traditional publisher, 1978. But someone's still making money from this book because sales are still coming through. And if it had been self-published on Amazon, which it couldn't have at the time because all that was available at that time was traditional publishers. But she'd have made a lot more money off of this book right here. This book right here, I recommend you get a copy of this book. This book talks about passive income through writing books. But this talks about, traditional publishers because this book was written before Amazon, if I'm not mistaken. But you will see a lot of good ideas for your own books in this book because if you look at what's worked in the past, then maybe you can write your own book about the same topic that worked in the past. Because it worked in the past, it'll probably work again. You don't want to copy, you don't want to do, you don't want to infringe on anyone's copyrights, obviously. You want to write your own book. But you can take a lot of ideas in this book right here about different books that worked in the past. And you can get a lot of ideas out of this book right here. There's a huge list of different books that have been published. You can see some here on the front cover, and you can get ideas out of this book right here for your own topics, your own books to write, and wonderful. I mean, it really is. I can't stress this enough. If you can write your books, especially if you write something that has a lot of appeal, like Effortless Sleep, I mean, you can make a lot of money off of that. And you can sell for decades, obviously. And this book right here will give you a lot of ideas for topics that's worked in the past. You can rework those same topics and publish your own books on Amazon. Now, I'm sure that some of you all are thinking right now about writing a book about your life. Writing your life story. Don't do that. I hate to break the news, and it sounds brutal, but no one cares. Selling a book about your life is going to be a waste of time writing that book because the sales are going to be very low or completely non-existent because no one cares about your life. Unless you are a famous rock star, athlete, political figure, movie star, some type of celebrity, no one cares about your life. You care about your life, maybe your family, and you might sell 4 or 5 copies, but you're not going to sell a lot of copies and not going to make a lot of money by writing a book about your life. I hate to say it that way, but sometimes you have to be just brutally honest. No one cares about your life. They don't want to buy a book about your life. They want to buy a book, a nonfiction book, that will help them to better their own life. People are worried about their life, worried about improving their life. And if you can provide a book that will do that, then you're golden. But don't waste your time writing a book unless you're famous. And I doubt if you're some famous celebrity, you're watching this video about making passive income because you're probably already rich. So don't waste your time on that right now. If you get famous sometime in the future and you want to do that, then go ahead and do that. But right now, go with nonfiction and something that will help people to better their life, because people care about their own life. They don't care about yours. All right, now we have that out of the way. Let's talk about the actual writing process. And different people write different ways. They set their manuscript up to be written in different ways. But the way I found that makes it's always going to be hard. It's going to be difficult to do. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take, 3, 6 months, or even a year to get your book written the way it should be, depending on the topic and how well you know the topic, the length of your book, and all that. It's going to be difficult, but there's ways to make it easier. If you talk to most people about writing a book, they imagine themselves just sitting down and start writing that book. It's not really done that way. When you write, a nonfiction book, you do it in sections. You don't do it all at once. You don't just sit down and just write the book out. You can actually skip around and write different chapters at different times and then put it all together. But how I do it is I will come up with the topic that I want to write the book about. And then, I will brainstorm the chapters. And I will write down everything that comes to mind about that topic that could be a chapter, and I'll write that down. And then I will go through that list, and I will eliminate some, I might add some others, and then I will take what I have left, and I'll organize that into what should be logically Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4, Chapter 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. Get it organized that way. You have your chapters, and you have those chapters that you're going to have your book written about, all lined up in logical format. And then you want to take each chapter and brainstorm, mind map, and write down what's going to be in each chapter. You do that. And then you go back over it 4 or 5 times. You may have other ideas to add to it. You might want to take some of those ideas away. But everything that comes to mind that could go in that chapter, you write that down. And like I said, you go back and you go through that, and you may add more. You may add more detail. You may eliminate some of those points you wanted to make. And then you go through, when you start writing each chapter. You focus on each chapter, and you focus on each section in that chapter. Write that section, you're done. Don't worry about the book. Don't worry about finishing the book. Don't worry about the whole book. Worry about that part that you're writing in that chapter. Write that out, and then move to the next part. Write that out, move to the next part. You take it step by step by step. Each chapter, section at a time, and each chapter at a time until you get your book finished. And that's how you write, a nonfiction book the easy way. You don't just sit down and start typing on your computer. You don't do that. You have to have it all figured out. You have it all laid out. You have all of your chapters laid out. You have all of your chapter topics laid out, and you organize all of that, and then you start writing your book. And you write each chapter section by section. Finish that chapter, start the next chapter, write that chapter section by section, finish and repeat. Keep repeating and doing that until your book is finished. And that's how you write a nonfiction book the easy way. If you sit down and you're thinking, I'm going to write this all the way through, or I'm going to start at the first and start writing this book, it's going to be much more difficult, because it's going to be much more discouraging, because you're having to finish the whole book. And this way you can see progress. Hey, I finished this chapter. I finished this section of the chapter, so I made progress today. It doesn't look like it's 6 months away. If you're doing each section, you may have a week for each chapter, 2 weeks, maybe, and you can be finished in at least the time in that chapter. So you feel like you've actually accomplished something, because you actually have. But if you look at it as a whole book, having to write all at once, it's going to take 6 months or more to write, to get written out. It seems nearly impossible. And it's impossible to keep organized that way too. You want everything organized, laid out. Everything's going to be in the book, written out already. Then you just go to each section and expand that section until you have your book completely finished. And once you have your manuscript written, no doubt there's going to be some imperfections. There's going to be some missed periods, missed capitalization, maybe some messed up grammar, who knows. But you're going to have it in your book, especially during the first draft. It needs to be corrected. So you want to go back through your book and proofread your book section by section and make sure everything is organized correctly, everything is written out to the best of your ability. Then when you get that done, that's your first draft and your second draft. Then, once you have all that completed, you want to take each chapter and go to ChatGPT and have the AI to go through your chapter, each chapter one at a time in your chapter. You don't want to do the whole book at once. Do each chapter with ChatGPT and tell it to not rewrite your book. You don't want that to happen, but you want it to be checked and corrected for spelling, grammar, punctuation, sentence structure, everything like that you might not get completely correct. Used to be you'd have to pay professional editors to do this, and they still made mistakes. ChatGPT doesn't really make a lot of mistakes. I didn't have it on this book, but my last book, The Great Reset, I actually used ChatGPT to go through and correct, any grammar, spelling, punctuation, sentence structure, and things like that. Pretty much free to do. And it's quick, it's easy, so don't skip this step. The AI has a lot of potential downfalls in life as far as what they're trying to put it in to control everyone and through this AI control grid structure. However, it can be used for something like this right here to correct any issues, with your book. Because we all make mistakes. I'm definitely not perfect. I might misspell a word. I do all the time. It happens. Typos, sentence structure issues, grammar. The AI can find that very quickly and correct that. And then when it does your chapter, you want to copy that and then go through that again. Make sure it didn't change anything that you don't want changed. And then your chapter is finished. And then do the next chapter, and the next chapter, and the next chapter. Run it through the AI, correcting, proofreading. It's what it's called, proofreading. Let the AI proofread and correct any grammar, spelling, punctuation issues. And after you have all this done, you have your book written, you have it proofread, you are ready to upload your book to Amazon and start making sales. Not yet. You have to make sure your formatting is correct. And the easiest way to do this is to use Amazon's free formatting tool called Kindle Create. If you use Kindle Create to format your manuscript, then everything will be formatted correctly, and it will be a lot easier to get your book uploaded and for everything to be on the page, readable, and everything correct. So definitely use Kindle Create. When I first wrote a book and uploaded it to Amazon, I did the formatting myself, and it's a pain in the butt. But with Kindle Create, it's a lot easier, a lot quicker, and a lot better. So definitely use Kindle Create to format your book before trying to upload that to Amazon to sell. But anyways, we have reached the end. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you get something from it, and hope to see you making a lot of passive income in the very near future.